right, we're back. Yay!
Yeah.
We have a soundboard.
Thank you, Road.
I'm going to mess with this thing the whole time. Well, not really. We're going to try to keep these podcasts to 15 minutes. Welcome back to Tuff Stitch.
Yeah, look at that little logo that we
There's
got
a logo
there.
back there. It's semi-professional. So a lot has happened in the past week since we've done the one that you guys might have watched before.
Yeah.
We talked about leather in that one. We gave some shout outs a week ago. We're going to give some more shout outs again this week. But I want to talk about the riding season that's here now. Some of the country, Florida, Texas, California, they don't put their bikes away. They've been riding all year.
Good for them.
Good for them. Awesome.
Us New Yorkers are a little different.
If you're in New York or in the upper Midwest, you kind of store your bike for a while because of the salt. And some people put their bikes away wet, as some may say, and don't really do the proper maintenance to store them. Mm-hmm. So before you pull your bike out for the season, I wanted to review a couple quick things to not forget this season.
Yes. So let's talk about the first one, which is tires and wheels. And basically, you're saying like once you get your bike out, what is, the things that you got to do to, get it back on the road. And tires and wheels is probably one of the main things to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people forget about that, especially in cold spots. Your tires are going to lose all the air. So you want to air them up. You want to check for cracks. Check your born date on your tires. If you don't know how to do that, there's a million videos on the internet how to look for your born date. Make sure they're not cracked. They're not cupped. There's no flat spots. You don't have any things poking through them. You definitely want to check your wheels. If you're running spoke wheels, pull on all the spokes, make sure they're not loose. If they're loose, get them tightened up. If you don't know how to do that, take them to a shop. Get somebody to retrue them. If you're running mag wheels, make sure there's no cracks in those either. Overall, just wash them, give them a really good close inspection.
That's good advice. So another one that we were kind of thinking of is battery and electrical systems of the bike itself.
Yeah, you should keep your bike stored on a battery tender. So if you don't do that, you're probably going to come back to a bike with a dead battery. So keep them on a trickle charger. You want to look at your terminals. Make sure there's no corrosion there. If there is some corrosion, clean it off really good. They make some terminal spray to keep that from happening again. Coat it with that. And then after you do get your bike cranked over, you need to check your lights. You want your high beam, your low beam, your turn signals, especially your brake lights. Just run through all your light bulbs really quick. Make sure they all illuminate.
Okay. And, for the bikes being in all winter, I'm assuming, fluids in the bike would not be the best to you just go out and just start riding without changing any of that stuff either.
If you put your bike away wet, that's not a good thing. A lot of people do winterize their bike. They'll do an oil change so they are ready for spring. You definitely, when you store your bike, you do want to store it with the gas tank full. If you leave it empty, there's going to be condensation that accumulates on the top, and then gets in. If you have a carburetor, that's bad news there. You should have put some kind of fuel stabilizer in there as well. But you want to check all the levels in your oil. If you need to do an oil change, if you put it away dirty last year, just go ahead and change your oil and your filter, and that way you're ready for the season. Make sure that nothing's leaking. This happened to me the other day. I had my adventure bike stored on the center stand, and I pushed it off the center stand, and that initial hit of the rear suspension blew the seals apart on my rear shocks. And there's no way to rebuild these shocks. It's buy and install only. So there's another $1,000 out of my pocket, and I could have easily just pushed the bike off the center stand, started it, and ran through my neighborhood, but then I wouldn't have seen all the oil dripping out of the rear shock all over the rear tire, and I could have crashed and washed out in the corner. So take a minute after you've pushed your bike around, make sure if there's a leak, address that, especially if it's a leak on the back half of the bike that's going to leak on the rear tire that's going to cause you to wreck. So look after that stuff.
Sometimes you've ridden before. I have a feeling.
A couple times. I have a couple miles underneath my butt cheeks for
sure. But
you
definitely know everything about the safety of doing this, after you take it out. And I think, another thing is the brakes. Of a bike. You definitely have to check that before.
Yeah.
before
I got in trouble for brakes this past season. I took a bike to Sturgis. I thought I'd looked at everything, and I brought it back from Sturgis. The minute I brought it back from Sturgis, I had to go on another trip, so I dropped it off at the dealer for them to service it. And they called my house, and my wife picked up, and they said, this bike has no brakes. So then I got a phone call going, you rode cross country with no brakes. Sometimes you overlook them. So this is your reminder not to overlook your brake pads. Check your check your brake pads, check your fluids and your master cylinders. You want to open up the top. You want to make sure the fluid's not dirty. If you need to flush it, get it flushed. Do all that now so you can have a good spring and a good summer.
All right. I think there's one more left that you wanted to talk about, and that's the chain, belt, and shaft drive.
Yeah, a lot of our customers that I see posting about us, they're not running shaft-driven bikes, but chains and belts are really important, especially if you're running a chain belt too. But a chain can really mess up your day when your chain breaks because it could whip around. It can destroy your saddlebags. It can destroy your leg. Make sure your chain is cleaned off and greased the right way. Make sure there's tension in your chain, not just your rear chain, your drive chain. You want to check your it's going to skip my brain right now to say the wrong thing in front of a bunch of bikers, but
let's find out.
Your primary chain, you want to make sure that that's got good tension on it too. So look at your owner's manual, make sure your chains are tensioned the right way. Belt, make sure your belt isn't dry rotted, it doesn't have any cracks in it, because when a belt pops, that'll ruin your day too. Then you're stranded from home hours away, and you got no way to save yourself. And you're not fixing a belt on the side of the road. You can fix a chain on the side of the road. If you're close to a Tractor Supply company, you can go get a number 50 chain, throw it on your Harley, and get you home. It's not the best chain to run, but it'll get you home. But a belt, you're dead in the water.
All right. Well, I think that covers what you got to do, once you take your bike out and when you're living in a place like New York or, north.
Yeah, those are the first couple things you should do when you pull your bike out of storage. There's a number of things that you want to look at overall, but before you go do that first little ride around your neighborhood, make sure you've gone through those top 5 things, and you should be good to go. And everybody just, have a good riding season. That's what we're here for.
That sounds about right. So, sorry, South of America, this is not for you. This podcast, but
no, this is for everybody. Wherever you are in the world, do these first 5 things to your bike, and you'll be good to go for the season. So we'll wrap this one up really short and sweet. So we want to keep these things easy, so you can watch on your breaks at work, or if you're escape to the bathroom for a while to get some private time.
Exactly. If you're not into podcasts that go for an hour and a half, these are going to be a little bit shorter than that.
Yeah, we don't have time for that. Maybe one day we'll get into something that's going to be that interesting for a 2-hour-long podcast. But
have a really cool interview with somebody.
Exactly. Maybe, so we're going to take this on the road. We're going to do some pop-ups. We're going to go into some shops, into some other scenarios with this podcast. So thanks for tuning in.
Take care, guys. There we go again.